Welcome everyone back to another Dragon Ball Super card game video. My name is D-Free here today. In this video, we will be taking a look at one of the decks that I have had a ton of fun with. I have been practicing with and playing with online and things of that nature since before this format even started, before this set even came out. I've also won first place at locals a few times with this deck as well, and I've been meaning to show you guys this for a couple of weeks, so here we go. Now, we're going to also, in a moment, after I go over the general deck idea, kind of the premise of the deck, what gave me the inspiration, the card choices, etc. We're going to also kind of look at some of the other options you guys could have in this deck to make it more of a Child's Wish variant, because I'm not really doing that in this deck. I didn't find it necessary, but I have let a couple of my friends play it, and, you know, one of my friends really likes to play it that way. So, anyways, moving on. So, to begin, this is an Ultra Instinct signed Son Goku deck. Now, you guys know when you play him, you pretty much wipe the entire board. You swing in, they cannot combo for his swings, and if you combo that with the Shenron's degenerate ability, you can swing 3 times with triple strike, and they have no means to stop you because they cannot counter out of it, or combo out of it, excuse me. The only thing they can do is counter, which is why we do have the bad rings in there to counter the counter, and we can kind of just go for game with that. It doesn't really matter if we give them the cards or not, whatever the case is. Unless they're ripping a negate, I guess, it doesn't really matter. So, moving on. The general premise was to try to see it as consistently as possible. One of the things that happens with this deck is it filters a ton. So we have the Kaio-Ken Goku there, one drop card that lets me go ahead and pull a Goku from the top 7 of the deck, a blue Goku. So that's a very, very easy thing to do. I can rip another Kaio-Ken. I can pull the Preface. I can also pull the Rapid Spirit, or Rapid Onslaught, excuse me. I can pull the one of Dragon Fist or the Ultra Instinct signs. Now, the way that I would generally play it a lot of times is turn 1, I would actually play the Kaio-Ken because a lot of times I would have him. Or if I didn't have him, you know, things like the Dragon Balls would almost always assure that I had him turn 1. And again, like I said, this deck filters a ton just because of all the draw power. So, typically I would play him turn 1, and then turn 3, I would be able to start getting some of my combos going by evolving or whatever the case is. So, the way that I would typically play, it just depended on the matchup, though, because I might also do things like hardcast the Preface of Recovery, or Preface of Recovery, excuse me. Anyways, I would either do one of those two things, depending on what I was up against. If I was playing somebody that had heavy board control or whatever, I would need to go the route of having a barrier card on board, which is where the Preface would come in. And then I'm just going to call it everything, apparently. Anyways, from there, and after that, we would start the chain of evolving. So, you really don't attack with this deck. The only reason you would attack at all is if you wanted to get something in your drop. The best candidate to go to the drop would be the Shenron. In fact, he's the only card in the entire deck that really just wants to be in the drop because of the ability to draw and then give a critical hit or untap 2 energy. You'll find that untapping 2 energy is very, very valuable in a deck like this because, you know, you can go from playing one card to playing another on top of another and then be tapped out or whatever the case is. But if you have that Shenron out there, you extend your play, you'd be able to go for game that turn, maybe a turn sooner, however you decide to do it. So, when it comes to the at-all costs, he was my secondary win condition. Him with Shenron is quietly one of the best possible things you can do, especially if you play yellow with the bad ring, because he's just going to go in and just generate so much value, right? So much value. And then you have the triple swings and triple strike. You draw the cards because you pull from the life. You destroy a card on the board, which could be a blocker or whatever the case is. You have the bad ring, so they're forced to take it. And if you have the Shenron out there, you could give him critical hit. Like this card, man, this card is so good, right? I do have 2 in the sideboard for my sideboard choices. But secondary win con, again, because I felt like 2 ofs and 1 ofs, while generally are inconsistent, you can still see them pretty well with a deck like this that filters so much. So, typically turn 1, I'd be playing, like I said, the Kaio-Ken. Turn 2, I'd be trying to play an Objection. And then after that, turn 3, 4, 5, I'd be playing my other pieces to kind of get my Evolve chain going. Typically, Kaio-Ken can stay out there unless she gets Crushed. If that's the case, I will be looking the route of playing the Preface of Recovery out there. And then the following turn, I'd be playing the 4 Shenron with either World Peace or just hard casting it. It doesn't really matter. And then after that, since I had Barrier on my previous card, the following turn, I can go for game. So it's just an interesting dichotomy with the way that you do this. It's typically a turn 4, turn 5 game, but if it does wind up going a little bit longer, you do have options to play the at all cost. So our main evolve chain is this Rapid Onslaught. He's very good. He also is our third. Well, I don't want to say third. You know, the one of Spirit Dragon Fist Goku could be the third, but they're pretty much both the third option to win the game. And the Rapid Onslaught's cool because you can crit yourself and he gets critical hit and double strike, and you can combine that with triple attack from the leader and swing in 3 times for double strike, critical, triple attack. So you can go 3 times, deal 6 damage, and it's just another thing that you have as an option just because Shenron is just so good. Another really powerful card with Shenron is the Dragon Fist Goku. Now, you could give him critical hit, but otherwise he does not have it. You can give it via the 4-drop Shenron, but when he swings, he gets a card off the board ignoring barrier. So, like, that's a very, very powerful asset. If you just need to clear the board entirely, you can play this card, give it 3 swings, and just go, go, go. That's suboptimal, but if you're in a position where you have to do something like that to be able to win the game the following turn or whatever the case is, you can do that. And the cool thing about this card is he can still be evolved the following turn because he also does have barrier into an Ultra Instinct who just innately will wipe the board anyway, right? So he'll wipe the board anyway, but if you need to World Peace this guy out or whatever the case is, he did come in clutch a couple of times, but he was my flex choice in the deck. He 100% did not need to be there. Initially, I was playing the Kaio-Ken Goku that's in the sideboard right here. I was playing this card, decided to take it out, and just put it in the sideboard as a secondary option. But moving on, Ultra Instinct Sign, like I said, I already talked about him earlier. He swings in 3 times. They can't combo. Only thing they can do is negate, which is why the Batarangs are there. And again, typically turn 4 or 5, depending on how you play it. If you have Shenron out, whatever the case is, you're pretty much going for game. Or if you double objection, whatever the case is. So we do have Temporal Rescue Trunks. He is our super combo. Self-explanatory. Now, I've already kind of been raving about this 4-drop Shenron. Personally, I think it's the better of the two. I've seen some pretty crazy plays with the 5-drop Shenron, like on Nats and stuff like that. But personally, I just enjoy using this one a lot more. So this one has the ability to revive my super combo if I need it to. Can also revive the Kind Saiyan again if I need it to. For whatever reason, you can do a thing like revive the Kind Saiyan, go top 7, pull a card, then use the Kind Saiyan to be evolved. And, you know, you can do little things like that. So very, very good card, very flexible. A card that you don't necessarily need to see, but it does help you out a lot. It's not, in some decks it's played in, it's just an option. You don't really need to see it. You can win without it. And this is one of those decks as well. But if you do hit it, it just allows you to have too much value because of the untap generally. Speaking of untap, we do have the 4 Senzu Beans. Senzu Bean is incredibly clutch because of things like you swing in, you get to untap your yellow, so that way, you know, if you use the Batarang, whatever the case is, if they rip another bat or negate or whatever the case is, if you're worried about that, you can Batarang again the following turn, assuming you had the 4 yellow cards necessary to do that. Or you can just untap and then evolve. You know, you might be in a position where you play the Preface of Recovery, and then swing, Senzu Bean, and then evolve into Rapid Onslaught, and then maybe you have another energy up, maybe you don't, you just leave the Rapid Onslaught out there, which is suboptimal to me because he doesn't have barrier. But again, you have different options with Senzu Bean depending on how you play, and Senzu Bean is one of the best defensive cards as well anyway, especially early on in the game before your leader flips. It's very good. So we also do have the Objection, primary card in the deck. Debated going up to 4, might do so, but you really want to go ahead and rip the Objection. Now, there were games, especially when the format first started, you know, where I got victories, right? And then the following game, people cited in their Dende's. Dende is not a card that's, I don't want to say super prevalent, but he is a big deal. He's a very, very big deal if they start looping the Dende. They play the Dende, then they do stuff like revive him with the Shenron and just keep going and going and going. And if they have multiple 4-drop Shenrons out there, they can untap with one, bring out another Dende with the other one. They just do crazy things. So I had my energy one time go from like 5 down to like 2, and then the next turn he just wiped it all. And then I lost that game, and then I sided these out and then won game 3. So be wary of that. One of the things that I was doing at that point was I was siding the West Supreme Kai as just a substitute because she is still a mana dork, but the issue is she's not synergizing well with things like World Peace, so that's kind of where this comes in. But you don't need World Peace to win. Like, I think World Peace is probably, aside from like the Dragon Fist, the one card in this deck that you just don't need. It's nice, you just don't need it. But yeah, be wary of that if you do play the Objection. Other than that, though, if you play a 4th and you just Objection, they're not, Dende is not a problem if they can't loop him like that, because you're going to generate more value. Otherwise, if you can just outpace their negging of your energy, they're not even going to bother to do it, right? A lot of people won't even bother to do it. And you see that with some of the tournaments that have been going on. Anyways, the Batarangs, you need it. You just need it. So there's that. And we have 3, so you see a little more often. A lot of people just tend to run 2, but I like 3. The 4 Nimbuses to stop the rush decks. You want to see it too. Also, you need to have a nice amount of yellow cards in the deck, which is part of the reason why Personal Ambition is at 4. Personal Ambition is one of the best desires in the game to me. I love it. It's too good. You can use it with a yellow energy, draw a card, and then untap a blue energy, which sometimes is very, very clutch just because it allows you to do other plays. And Personal Ambition also serves as a yellow card. You can pitch for Flying Nimbus or Battering Laser. So, very good card. 7 Dragon Balls, 2 World Pieces. World Piece generally was for the Shenron. A couple of times it was used to bring out the Vegeta or the Rapid Onslaught. You know, you can do crazy things like that, especially if you use it with your leader ability, because you're in a position where Ultra Instinct can win the game because they're down to 3 life or whatever. There's no reason not to do it. You would love to get the triple attack and the attack gain, but you can World Piece, and if you have a Battering, you know, you can play the 5-drop with the World Piece, and then evolve into the Ultra Instinct, and you'd be fine, assuming you have the Battering. If you're concerned about a negate, you know, Battering is great. Not everybody plays a million negates. So the sideboard was cool because it had the option to change the deck into more of a Gogeta variant, which is where things like World Peace became a little bit more live. So I did side the 2 Mofubas for the mirror match. Shenron, you generally want to have a Mofuba if you play a blue for Shenron, just to get those triple attackers out of there. The 4th objection, 2 at all costs. So what we would do is we would drop the Preface of Recoveries, we'd drop the Dragon Fist, we would add in 2 Vegetas, we could drop the Ultra Instinct, so you can leave one in. Sometimes I would leave one in as a secondary option, but you drop the Ultra Instinct, so you just kind of side in the Gogeta 7, you know, you do things like that. You also have room to side in the Gogeta 5 if you want to take out the Kind Saiyans as well. Kind Saiyan's kind of dead when you kill out the Preface of Recovery too, and the Ultra Instinct, so you can drop those 2 and just kind of side all that chain in, and you'd be fine, you know. And you have a secondary way to play the game just in general, because they might have been expecting you to try to go Ultra Instinct, but now you hit them all of a sudden with the Gogeta 7, and you kind of do the same degenerate things, knock their hand down to 3, swing in triple attack, triple strike, and you're good. And then the Gogeta 5 is still really, really good because of the value he generates. Also, adding a 3rd and 4th at all costs can be pretty crazy because you'll see it more often. And that card in and of itself is a very good finisher. We also do have the Kaio-Ken Goku. Sometimes I would side it in for the Dragon Fist, you know, because if you're in a position where you need to win the game there, and maybe for whatever reason you didn't have the Battering, or if they just stopped your Ultra Instinct somehow, some way, assuming it wasn't Mofuba, that is, you can just kind of keep going. So that's why that's there. Just one of. Minus Kill Zone for the people that like to do things like Cold Bloodlust, Crusher Ball. Debating adding a 2nd, but that was pretty much it. And then the 3 Crisis Crushers just for the complete aggros. And if you notice that they're playing like aggro, they don't play a lot of removal, you can just drop the Preface and then swap them for Crisis Crushers. So that was pretty much it. Now, here's a quick throw together that I had for some Child's Wish options. Now, this isn't a deck list that's been mastered or anything like that right here, just some options. This yellow Goku is very, very powerful for the ability to be evolved on top of by the Rapid Onslaught, because Rapid Onslaught does not need a blue Goku, so there's that. Preface and Child's Wish is a crazy good combo because you do pretty much play the Preface of Recovery for no cost and a turn early if you do it turn 2. So there's that too. You know, little things like that. This is another way to play the game. It just depends on if you're trying to go for more of that mid-range, or if you're trying to go an extra turn sooner, whatever the case is. But those 2 Gokus do synergize very, very well with this deck from, you know, testing so far. Again, I've tested it, I just haven't mastered it and cared a whole lot about that. So those are some options you guys can do. And you can take out the Shenron, because as you see, I did not put that in there. Again, like I was saying, it wasn't necessary. It's just nice to have. And then, of course, again, this yellow Goku is another yellow card you can use to pitch. Can also be very good for other things like swinging, applying early pressure, ripping the life in case you need to just add more cards to your hand, whatever the case is. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit that subscribe if you are new for more content, and I'll catch all of you in the next Dragon Ball Super Card Game video. Take it easy, everyone.